Montana Territory, 1875. The unforgiving winter had finally released its grip on Cottonwood Creek, leaving behind a landscape that blossomed with promise and peril in equal measure. To 24-year-old Owen Westbrook, the frontier represented everything he believed about life. It favored the strong, punished the weak, and had no patience for sentimentality. Love was a luxury afforded to those in Eastern parlors, not men who made their living with rope, saddle, and six-shooter. A man rides alone out here, he often told the other hands at the Cross T Ranch. Gets attached to anything, woman, place, or idea, and that's just one more thing that can get you killed. The early morning sun caught Owen's chestnut hair as he rode fence line, checking for breaks after the harsh winter. He was tall and broad-shouldered, his face weathered beyond his years, but handsome in a rugged way, with a strong jaw and eyes the color of prairie sky. Though young, he carried himself with the confidence of a man who'd faced down nature's wrath and man's cruelty more times than most twice his age. What Owen wanted was simple: earn enough from this season's cattle drive to buy his own small spread, answer to no one, rely on no one. The scars on his back, courtesy of his father's belt, and the bullet wound in his shoulder, courtesy of a Cheyenne raid that had orphaned him at 15, had taught him the cost of dependency. What he couldn't admit, even to himself in the loneliest hours of night watch, was the hollow ache that sometimes overtook him when he saw the ranch owner's wife meet her husband with a kiss, or when the Mexican cook spoke of his family back home. Owen told himself it was weakness, nothing more, a distraction from survival. That particular morning, as spring winds carried the scent of new grass across the range, Owen spotted something that shouldn't have been there, a flash of color against the endless brown and green. Curiosity drew him closer. Caution kept his hand near his revolver. What he found changed everything. A wagon lay overturned near the creek, one wheel shattered. Nearby, the bodies of two men, likely the driver and guard, lay twisted in death, their scalps taken. Owen cursed softly, eyes scanning the horizon for signs of the war party. Finding none, he was about to ride for the ranch when a soft moan caught his attention. Beneath the canvas of the overturned wagon, half submerged in the creek's cold water, lay a young woman. Miss, can you hear me? Owen knelt beside her, pulling her from the water. Her eyelids fluttered, revealing eyes green as spring grass. Her chestnut brown hair, though matted with blood from a gash on her temple, framed a face of delicate beauty. She couldn't have been more than 20 years old, dressed in a once fine blue traveling dress now torn and muddy. They're gone, she whispered. Father, Uncle James. I'm sorry, Owen said, the words feeling inadequate. We need to get you to safety. She nodded weakly before losing consciousness again, leaving Owen with a decision that went against every instinct he'd cultivated. Taking her back meant responsibility, involvement, exactly what he'd sworn to avoid. But leaving her meant certain death. With a curse that scattered nearby birds, Owen lifted her onto his horse and headed back to the ranch, unaware that his carefully constructed solitude had just suffered its first fatal crack. Sophia Calloway had believed that books and education were her path to independence. At 22, with a teaching certificate and position waiting in Helena, she had convinced her father to leave their failing farm in Minnesota for the promise of Montana Territory. The West is changing, she told him. Women can make their own way there. Now, as she drifted in and out of consciousness, feeling strong arms around her and the rhythm of a horse beneath, she wondered if her independence would end before it had truly begun. When she fully awoke, it was to the sight of rough-hewn log walls and the sensation of clean bandages around her head. A woman in her 40s sat nearby, mending clothes. You're at the Cross T Ranch, the woman said, noting Sophia's open eyes. I'm Martha Turner, the foreman's wife. You've been through quite an ordeal. The men who were with me. Sophia began. I'm sorry, dear. They were given a proper burial yesterday. Yesterday? She'd lost an entire day. Sophia tried to sit up, but fell back as dizziness overtook her. Easy now, Martha cautioned. That's a nasty wound. You need rest. Who brought me here? Owen Westbrook, one of our cowboys. Stubborn as they come, but thank the Lord he found you. As if summoned by his name. The door opened and a young man entered, tall, with shoulders that filled the doorframe and intense blue eyes that assessed her with guarded concern. He carried his hat in his hands, revealing tousled chestnut hair. "You're awake," he stated, his voice deep but soft. "Thanks to you, it seems." Sophia studied him, noting the caution in his stance, as if ready to flee at any moment. "I'm Sophia Calloway. Owen Westbrook. Just did what anybody would have." Martha snorted. "Don't let his modesty fool you. Rode through Blackfoot territory with you, risking his hide when most men would have left you." Owen shifted uncomfortably. "You need anything, Miss Calloway?" "Just some answers. How far are we from Helena?" "4 days hard ride," he replied. "But you won't be going anywhere for a while." The realization hit her. She was stranded, dependent on strangers, her belongings lost, her future uncertain. Her carefully planned independence had shattered like the wagon wheel. "I have a position waiting," she said, struggling to keep panic from her voice. "A teaching position." Owen's expression remained unchanged. "Way I see it, miss, you've got 2 choices. Stay here until you're healed enough for the stage, or—" He paused, seeming to wrestle with himself. "Or I could take you when I head to Fort Benton next week. It's not Helena, but there's a doctor there, and regular steamboats east if you want to go home." The offer clearly cost him something, though Sophia couldn't understand why. "I'm not going back east," she said firmly. "I came west to build something. I intend to do just that." Something flickered in Owen's eyes. Respect, perhaps, before he nodded and replaced his hat. "Your choice. I'll be back to check on you." After he left, Martha smiled knowingly. "That boy's never offered to escort anyone anywhere. In 3 years, I've barely heard him string that many words together." "He doesn't seem very sociable," Sophia observed. "Owen believes caring about folks is dangerous out here." Martha handed Sophia a cup of water. "Maybe he's right, but it's no way to live." As the days passed, Sophia regained her strength slowly. The ranch became her temporary sanctuary while she wrote letters to Helena explaining her delay. Owen appeared daily, first with awkward silence, then with small offerings, a book salvaged from her wagon, wildflowers just to brighten things up, and eventually, conversation. She learned he'd been riding for the Cross T since he was 16, that he could break the wildest horses and track game better than most Indians. He never mentioned family. In turn, she told him of her father's farm, her mother's death from influenza, her determination to be more than someone's wife. "Teaching gives me purpose," she explained one evening as they sat on the porch. "The West needs education as much as it needs cattle and railroads." "Never saw much use for book learning myself," Owen admitted. "Yet you read Emerson." Sophia nodded toward the worn volume peeking from his pocket. Owen looked almost embarrassed. "Found it in an abandoned cabin. Figured it might pass the time during winter. And did it. Some of it made sense. Man being self-reliant and all." "Emerson also wrote that we become part of all we meet," Sophia pointed out. "No man is an island, Mr. Westbrook." Owen's jaw tightened. "Out here, islands survive. The connected get dragged down." 2 weeks after her arrival, Sophia's strength had improved enough that she insisted on helping with chores. Martha showed her how to make soap and can vegetables, skills her education hadn't covered. The ranch hands treated her with respectful distance, all except Owen, who seemed torn between avoiding her and seeking her company. One evening, as Sophia hung laundry, she noticed him watching from the corral where he worked with a spirited colt. "Something troubling you, Mr. Westbrook?" she called. He approached, wiping dusty hands on his denims. "Boss says there's rumors of Blackfoot war parties. I think you should delay your trip to Helena." "Are you concerned for my welfare?" she teased gently. "I'm concerned about having to rescue you again," he shot back, but without malice. "You seem to attract trouble, and yet you keep finding me." Sophia folded a sheet, eyes never leaving his. "Perhaps the trouble is mutual." The tension between them crackled like heat lightning, unexpected and dangerous. Owen looked away first. "I'm leaving for Fort Benton in 3 days," he said abruptly. "You can still come if you want, or stay here until the stage runs again." "I thought you preferred riding alone," Sophia challenged. "I do." He met her gaze with an intensity that made her breath catch. "But I gave my word I'd see you safe." "Then I'll accompany you," she decided. "I've imposed on the Turners long enough." That night, a thunderstorm rolled across the plains with violent fury. Sophia lay awake, listening to the crash of thunder that reminded her too much of gunfire. When a particularly loud crack shook the cabin, she gasped involuntarily. Just thunder, came a soft voice from the main room where Owen had taken to sleeping since her arrival. It'll pass. I know, she whispered. It's not the storm. It's the memories. Silence stretched between them before Owen spoke again. After my parents died, I couldn't sleep through thunderstorms either. Reminded me of the raid. It was the first personal detail he'd offered freely. Sophia held her breath, afraid to break whatever spell had loosened his tongue. Does it ever go away? The fear, she asked. No, he answered honestly. But you get stronger than it. The journey to Fort Benton began under clear spring skies, Sophia riding a gentle mare borrowed from the ranch. Owen remained vigilant, eyes constantly scanning the horizon, hand never far from his Winchester. They made camp the first night in a sheltered draw, a small fire their only luxury. Why did you really offer to take me to Fort Benton? Sophia asked as they shared a simple meal. The truth, please. Owen stared into the flames, jaw working as if chewing on words that tasted strange. Because you remind me there's more to life than just surviving, he finally said. And that scares the hell out of me. Before Sophia could respond, the distinctive crack of a rifle split the night. Owen was moving instantly, tackling her to the ground as bullets thudded into the earth where they'd been sitting. Bandits, he whispered, reaching for his rifle. When I fire, you crawl to those rocks. Don't stop, don't look back. I'm not leaving you, she hissed. Damn stubborn woman. Owen fired 3 quick shots toward their attackers. Move. Together they scrambled to the rocky outcrop, bullets kicking up dirt around them. Once sheltered, Owen assessed the situation. 3, maybe 4 of them. They'll rush us before dawn. What do we do? Owen's face was grim in the moonlight. We've got one chance. There's an old trapper's cabin about 2 miles from here. If we can reach it before they circle around, we might hold out. Abandoning their supplies, they fled through the darkness, Owen leading Sophia by the hand through terrain he seemed to know by instinct. The cabin appeared as a darker shadow against the night sky, small, decrepit, but with solid walls. Once inside, Owen barricaded the door with the only furniture, a broken table and chair. Not much, but it'll have to do. Will they follow? Sophia asked, trying to control her trembling. Count on it. They're after horses, supplies, and you. His blunt honesty didn't surprise her anymore. Dawn brought the sound of approaching riders. Owen positioned Sophia in the corner furthest from the door and windows, pressing his spare revolver into her hand. Last resort, he said. I don't intend to let them get that close. When the first bandit tried to force the door, Owen's shot dropped him instantly. The others responded with a hail of gunfire that splintered the cabin's single window. For hours, a deadly game of patience played out, the bandits probing, Owen conserving ammunition with carefully placed shots. By midday, Sophia could see his strength flagging. The wound in his shoulder, the old one he rarely mentioned, had reopened, staining his shirt crimson. You're hurt, she whispered. It's nothing, he grimaced. Let me see. She moved toward him despite his protests, tearing strips from her petticoat to bind the wound. As her fingers worked gently, something shifted between them. Vulnerability meeting vulnerability, strengths complementing weaknesses. Owen, she said softly, using his given name for the first time. Why do you keep everyone at such a distance? His eyes met hers, pain making him honest. Because everyone I've ever loved has died violent. Mother, father, best friend during a stampede. Out here, caring is just delayed grief. So you choose emptiness instead? Her hands paused on his bandage. I choose survival. But the conviction in his voice wavered. A bullet splintered wood near their heads, ending the moment. Owen pushed Sophia back to safety and returned fire, dropping another bandit. But his movement reopened the wound, and fresh blood soaked through the makeshift bandage. By nightfall, fever gripped him. Sophia cradled his head in her lap, keeping watch with his rifle across her knees. The remaining bandits had fallen silent, perhaps waiting for dawn, perhaps gone. If they come, Owen murmured through parched lips, don't hesitate. Shoot straight. Save your strength, she ordered, wiping his brow with a damp cloth. No one is dying today. His feverish eyes locked onto hers. You should have been a frontierswoman, Sophia Calloway. You've got steel in your spine. And you should have been a poet, not a lone wolf, she countered. There's more tenderness in you than you admit. His laugh turned into a cough. If we survive this, remind me to deny everything. Morning brought salvation in the form of a cross-T search party. The ranch owner had grown concerned when they hadn't arrived at Fort Benton as scheduled and sent men to find them. The remaining bandits fled at the sight of 6 armed cowboys. Sophia supervised as they loaded Owen onto a travois. "We're taking him back to the ranch," she informed the foreman. "I'll not have him jostled all the way to Fort Benton in this condition." No one argued with her, not even Owen, who had slipped into semi-consciousness. The return journey was slow and tense. Sophia rode beside the travois, refusing to leave Owen's side despite her own exhaustion. When they finally reached the ranch, Martha helped her establish a sick room in the bunkhouse, away from the main house, but private enough for proper care. For 3 days, Owen drifted between fever and lucidity while Sophia cleaned his wound, spooned broth into him, and read aloud from his Emerson. On the 4th night, his fever broke, and he woke to find her asleep in a chair beside his bed, her hand resting on his. "You stayed," he whispered, not intending to wake her. Her eyes fluttered open. "Of course I stayed. Why? Helena's waiting. Your independence." Sophia's tired smile held a wisdom beyond her years. "Perhaps independence isn't what I thought it was. Perhaps it's not the absence of connection, but the freedom to choose your connections." Owen's hand tightened around hers. "I'm not worth choosing, Sophia. I'm broken in ways that may never heal." "We're all broken out here," she countered. "The West breaks everyone. But we rebuild." His recovery was slow but steady under her care. May turned to June, and the ranch bustled with preparations for the summer cattle drive. Owen strengthened enough to walk short distances, though Martha and Sophia forbade him from returning to work. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching sunset paint the mountains purple and gold, Owen made a confession. "I had plans, you know, before all this." He gestured vaguely at his healing shoulder. "Saved almost enough for a small spread near Cottonwood Creek." "You can still have that," Sophia said. "Maybe." He paused, gathering courage. But plans change. Before she could question him, riders appeared on the horizon, 3 men in city clothes, one carrying what looked like official documents. The ranch owner went out to meet them. "Who are they?" Sophia wondered. Owen's expression darkened. "Trouble." The visitors brought news that shattered the fragile peace. The railroad was coming through, and they were acquiring land, by purchase if possible, by government order if necessary. The cross-T stood in their path. "This affects your plans too," Sophia realized. "If the land you want is in their path." Owen nodded grimly. 3 years of savings, worthless. That night, Sophia found him sitting alone by the corrals, staring at the stars with an empty expression that frightened her more than his fever had. "You're giving up," she accused. "Being realistic," he corrected. "This is what happens out here, Sophia. Just when you think you've carved out something permanent, the world reminds you nothing is. So you'll retreat back into your shell? Become the lone wolf again?" His silence was answer enough. Sophia's temper flared. "You're a coward, Owen Westbrook." "Excuse me." He stood, towering over her. "You heard me. You're so afraid of loss that you won't risk having anything worth losing." She stepped closer, refusing to be intimidated by his height or anger. "The railroad's coming whether we like it or not. The frontier is changing. Adapt or be left behind." "Easy for you to say," he snapped. "You still have your teaching position waiting." Sophia flinched as if struck. "You think I don't understand loss? I buried my father and uncle. I've lost my home twice now. But I refuse to let fear dictate my life." "What would you have me do?" Owen demanded. "The land I wanted will be tracks and ties by year's end. Find different land. Or a different dream." She reached for his hand. "But don't go back to empty survival. You're better than that." He pulled away. "You don't know what I am." "I know exactly what you are," she insisted. "I've seen it every day since you found me. You're a man who saves lives even when it costs you. Who reads philosophy by firelight. Who believes in nothing but acts like he believes in everything." Owen turned away, unable to bear the truth in her eyes. "I need to think." For a week, he avoided her, throwing himself into ranch work despite his not fully healed shoulder. Sophia, equally stubborn, focused on helping Martha while writing letters to secure a new teaching position in Fort Benton, closer to where she now found herself. The tension between them became the subject of bunkhouse wagers until ranch owner Jacob Turner intervened. "Whatever's between you two, fix it," he told Owen bluntly. "She's leaving for Fort Benton tomorrow, and I'm tired of watching you mope. She's what? Owen's head snapped up. Arranged for passage with the supply wagon. Seems she's got a teaching position there now. Owen found Sophia packing her few belongings in the cabin she'd occupied since their return. You're leaving, he stated flatly. I have responsibilities, she replied without looking up. The school term starts in 2 weeks. Were you going to say goodbye? Would it have mattered? Her voice was carefully controlled. You've made your position clear, Mr. Westbrook. The formality stung. Sophia, please don't. She finally faced him, eyes bright with unshed tears. These past months have taught me much about the West, about survival. I understand now why you choose solitude. It's safer. That's not. Let me finish. She held up a hand. I respect your choice, truly. But I've made mine as well. I came west to build something meaningful. I still intend to. Owen stepped closer, close enough to catch the scent of lavender she somehow maintained even on the frontier. What if I told you I've been thinking about what you said? About different dreams? I'd say thinking isn't doing. But hope flickered in her eyes. The railroad men made Turner an offer for the Cross T, he said. He took it, but negotiated for the north section, away from their planned route. He's offered to sell it to me at a fair price. Owen, that's wonderful. Sophia's reserve cracked slightly. It would be, he agreed, if I had someone to build it with. The air between them stilled as his meaning registered. Sophia's eyes widened. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying. He took a deep breath, fighting years of practiced isolation. I'm saying that meeting you showed me there are things worth risking everything for. That maybe survival isn't enough. And I love you, Sophia Calloway, he said, the words rushing out like water through a broken dam. I think I have since I pulled you from that creek. It terrifies me more than any gunfight, but it's true. Sophia's careful composure crumbled. You have a strange way of showing love, avoiding me for weeks. I was afraid, he admitted. Still am. But I'm more afraid of watching you leave without knowing if we could have built something together. She touched his face gently. I have a contract in Fort Benton. I know. I'm not asking you to break it. He covered her hand with his. But Fort Benton is a lot closer than Helena. Close enough to court properly, if you'd allow it. Court. A smile tugged at her lips. Owen Westbrook, the lone wolf, wants to court me? I want to see if what I feel, what I think we both feel, is strong enough to build a life on. His voice grew serious. I can't promise it'll be easy. The land needs work, and I'm still learning how to care again. But I promise you this. If you give me the chance, I'll love you until my last breath. The simple vow hung between them, more binding than any contract. The school term is 9 months, Sophia said thoughtfully. I could return here during breaks. See this land of yours. Our land, he corrected. If you want it to be. Her answer was to rise on tiptoes and press her lips to his. A kiss that spoke of frontier courage, of choosing love despite danger, of two souls finding home in each other. Fort Benton, 1876. Winter had settled over Montana territory with its usual ferocity, but inside the small schoolhouse, warmth radiated from the pot-bellied stove and the enthusiasm of 20 students eager for knowledge. Sophia moved between the rough-hewn desks, correcting arithmetic and praising progress. As the school day ended and children bundled up against the cold, Sophia noticed a familiar figure through the frosted window, a tall man on horseback, leading a second horse with an empty saddle. Class dismissed, she announced, unable to keep the smile from her voice. Remember your readings for tomorrow. Outside, Owen waited with that quiet patience he brought to everything. His face, once guarded and remote, now softened visibly at the sight of her. Ready for Christmas break, Miss Calloway? He asked, the formality belied by the warmth in his eyes. More than ready, Mr. Westbrook. She allowed him to help her mount the second horse, their hands lingering longer than strictly proper. How's the cabin coming along? Finished the roof yesterday. It's small, but it'll do for now. Pride colored his voice. Turner says I'm a natural rancher. Might be able to expand come spring. They rode side by side toward the small hotel where Sophia boarded during the school term, their horses' breath forming clouds in the frigid air. I received a letter from Martha, Sophia said. She says the railroad has already changed everything. A proper town springing up where the station is. Change isn't always bad, Owen observed, glancing at her with meaning. That evening, after dinner in the hotel restaurant, They sat in the small parlor where Sophia was permitted to receive gentlemen callers. Owen seemed unusually nervous, fidgeting with his hat brim. "I've been thinking," he began. "A dangerous pastime," she teased gently. "I've saved enough," he continued. "The cabin's weathertight. The land's secured. I know you have months left on your teaching contract, but—" From his pocket, he withdrew a small wooden box, carved with delicate wildflowers. Inside nestled a simple gold band set with a small pearl. "Sophia Calloway, will you marry me? Not right away if you need to finish your term. But I don't want to wait to ask, to know." Tears welled in her eyes. "Owen Westbrook, are you proposing to me on Christmas Eve?" "I am," he confirmed, suddenly concerned by her tears. "Is that wrong?" "It's perfect," she whispered, extending her hand. "And yes, I'll marry you." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Owen's smile held none of the reservation that had once defined him. "I told you once I'd love you until my last breath. I meant it then. I mean it even more now." Spring 1877 brought their wedding day, held on the land that was now officially Westbrook Ranch. The ceremony was simple but meaningful, attended by the Turners, Sophia's students and their families, and the handful of cowboys who'd worked alongside Owen for years. As they spoke their vows beneath a canopy of cottonwood branches, surrounded by a community neither had possessed a year earlier, the transformation was complete. The lone wolf had found his mate, the independent teacher her equal partner. Together, they faced a frontier that would continue to challenge them but would never again defeat them. That night, in their small but sturdy cabin, Owen held Sophia, close as moonlight filtered through the window he'd built facing east, toward the sunrise. "What are you thinking?" she asked, tracing the scar on his shoulder. "That Emerson was right," he replied. "A man becomes part of all he meets. You changed me, Sophia. Saved me from a half-life." "We saved each other," she corrected gently. "That's what love does out here. It gives us someone to face the frontier with." As the years passed, Westbrook Ranch prospered and expanded. Sophia established a small school on their property for neighboring children, continuing her teaching while helping manage their growing operation. Owen's nightmares receded, replaced by dreams of the future they built daily. When their first child arrived, a daughter with Sophia's green eyes and Owen's determination, they named her Hope, for what had brought them together and sustained them through every trial. The hope that love could indeed tame the wild frontier, that vulnerability could be strength even in the harshest places, that two wounded souls could find home in each other. And as Montana Territory moved toward statehood, as railroads and telegraph wires knit the country closer together, as the Wild West gradually yielded to civilization, Owen and Sophia Westbrook stood as testament to a promise kept through every challenge, to love until the last breath, and to face whatever came hand in hand.